this time. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been a very interesting hearing. Testimony has also been illuminating. I think Mr. Lively mentioned his concerns about Kerry's proposal. So raising that issue, it reminds me a little bit of what Senator Edwards calls the two Americas, and that's what we're hearing today, two Americas. We've heard from some of our Republican friends that the economy has never been so good, that financial services are providing all of these opportunities. We have the highest standard of living in the world. Everything is just rosy peachy. And then we're hearing from other people who are talking about the decline of good-paying jobs, the growing gap between the rich and the poor, the increase in poverty, the fact that 45 million Americans have no health insurance, that people who are desperate are borrowing money at exorbitant interest rates. So let me start off by asking my friends from the banking community here. Let me just ask you, you'll excuse me maybe being a little personal here, but let me ask you a question about morality. Somebody works hard, they lose their jobs. We've lost close to 2.7 million manufacturing jobs in the last 3 years. It happens every day to somebody. They borrow money, they have to go to their credit card to pay their mortgage or their rent or their kids' student loans. And then out of nowhere, for no particular reason, having paid their credit card loans to the company on time every month, their rates go up from 9% to 25%. That happens in America today. Do you think that's moral, Mr. Lively? Do you think that's moral behavior, something that we should be proud of?
I don't think what we're talking about here.
Mr. Lively, if you could pull that mic,
Yeah,
if all the panelists will pull that mic right up close.
I don't know that I can discuss this in the context of morality. I think what we're talking about here is creditors are taking risk in the marketplace. They are the ones whose money is at risk.
But if I pay back, if you lend me money, and I pay you back on time every month, and you double my interest rates for any reason that you want, and I've lost my job and I need to borrow money, I'm asking you a question, personal question. We hear a lot about morality in America. Is that a moral act? In your judgment, should that be something that we should condone? Should the people of America condone when somebody gets divorced or loses their job having to pay twice the interest rates that they originally agreed to when they paid their bill every single month? Do you have a thought on the morality of that?
You know, I just don't think I can go to the question of morality in a financial transaction.
What if you just substituted the word ethical business practice in a financial sense?
Well, you can ask that question.
Well,
it's a good question.
I was trying to assist you.
No. Because I think, what we hear more and more, there are some people out there talking good versus evil. I'm moral, you're not moral. I think the way we behave publicly has something to do with morality. There's biblical phraseology dealing with usurious rates. Let me rephrase it. Is it usury when a rich person today can go to the bank and borrow money at 4.5% and a working person pays 28%? Is that usury in your judgment?
No, sir, it is not usury in my judgment. It is a function of risk relationships applying to the cost of the services that are being provided.
It is not usury. Mr. McHenry, is that usury in your judgment?
McEnany.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay. Well, actually, if I could, I'd like to comment on both questions. On the
Start with usury, because I'm interested in that one.
Well, actually, it is not usury quite clearly.
Charging 28% is not usury when the prime rate is 4.5%.
Well, I think it has to be taken in that broader context that you asked the question of morality. I'm one of those people who thinks that all people, including businesses like banks, should conduct themselves ethically and with a moral basis. One of the ways that banks do that is by making credit available to people of all economic walks of life, to people across the economic spectrum.
We don't have a lot of time, and I apologize.
Backgrounds, and I think that...
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question. My question is that you lend me money, I pay you back every month on time. I fulfill my end of the deal, and you double or triple my interest rates. Do you think that's ethical?
Well, what happens is what we're talking about is risk-based pricing.
No. Here's the fact. No. You're putting a term on it. I'm saying I pay you back every single month on time. I fulfilled my end. You've doubled or tripled my interest rates. Is that ethical?
The circumstances under which I'm aware that happens is quite ethical. and in
Okay,
fact-
thank you. Thank you. Let me go to Ms. Fox. We don't have a lot of time. Ms. Fox, is it ethical if I pay back my loan to you every single month and you double or triple my interest rates?
No, it's not ethical. No, I don't believe that's ethical, and it's not good public policy, and it has unintended consequences, I think, of putting consumers in a position where they're less likely to be able to repay everyone else, and it puts consumers in a downward spiral of unaffordable debt.
Ms. Stroud, do you think it is ethical that some people borrow money at 4.5% and working people who have fulfilled their end of the bargain, paying off what they're supposed to pay off every month on time, are paying 15 or 20%? Do you think that's ethical, good business practices?
Absolutely not. And I would like to add to that this is not about a difference in creditworthiness. This is about a difference in need and use of credit. And working families need and use credit more often, and as a result are paying a much higher price than their wealthier counterparts.
Ms. Stroud, do you have any figures as to how many millions of people today are using their credit cards to buy food or to take care of basic necessities?
Well, unfortunately, there is very little data out there about why people go into debt, how long they stay in debt, and what they are using their credit cards for. I can tell you that I would hope to be able to answer your question in about 4 months from now when we complete our own household survey asking those very questions. I will tell you that in interviewing hundreds of people through my research at Demos, credit cards have become a way that people, it's a Band-Aid for the family budget. When somebody loses a job, when there's an unexpected expense, the credit card makes up the slack. And it could be groceries, it can be car repairs, but most of the people we talk to are going into credit card debt to cover the mundane, everyday basics of life, not to get a luxury vacation or designer sneakers or new jewelry.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Ms. Biggert?